Welcome to the Catch Up with Claire. I'm your host, Claire Hoon, and today is a solo episode. The first solo episode of February. I say first as if there's going to be multiple. There's not. This is February's solo episode. I am 4 days back from the Aruba bachelorette party that I was on. So I want to dive into all of that. We are a few days out from the Super Bowl. I have some big questions about Super Bowl logistics. I kind of want to talk to an events management nerd and understand how it all happens. I put some stories out on my, I put a question box out on my stories and got a few questions that I will answer. And then I do want to touch on sort of the socio-political situation environment that we are living in, experiencing, that feels like has kind of dominated a lot of cycles in the past few weeks. So let's dive into it on some lighter topics. Aruba. Oh my gosh. When they say the trip has left the group chat, I mean, make your trip leave the group chat. This was the first girls trip, first bachelorette party I had been on in years. Actually been 7 years, because the last bachelorette party I went on was I was the maid of honor in my best friend's wedding, and I was 6 or 7 weeks postpartum during her bachelorette party, which she was getting engaged the week I found out I was pregnant. So let me back it up for you. All of my girlfriends were coming in town to New York City. We all knew that our one friend was getting engaged, but we disguised it as another friend's 25th birthday. So going into that week, my period was late, and I was like, I'm not pregnant. Let's just take a test and clear it. Ended up being pregnant. So celebrating that weekend, I had to pretend drink. And then 9 months later, obviously, the baby was born. We had her bachelorette party, and then 4 months later, her wedding. So I ended up bringing the baby on her bachelorette party to Las Vegas with my mom. I can't say I'd recommend that. Was I dumb and naive enough to make it work? Yes. Was it a good idea? Probably not. Anyway, that then catapulted my 7 years of being pregnant, postpartum, having another baby during the pandemic, all while all of my closest girlfriends were getting engaged, having bachelorette parties. The pandemic canceled a lot of weddings and big gatherings, and then having a third baby. And I just feel like I don't know how it happened, but I literally blinked and 7 years went by, and I hadn't been away with a group of girls since. So my sister-in-law is getting married this April. I am co-maid of honor in her wedding. I have this gnarly cough, thanks to my children. And I knew from the very beginning, she originally wanted to have a big destination wedding. And so I knew that having a destination, warm, tropical location bachelorette party was going to be the easiest sell ever. And luckily she and everyone else was so on board. So it was 5 of us total. We did 4 days, 3 nights in Aruba. And when I tell you, I feel like a rejuvenated version of myself. Okay, let me actually caveat that. I am on 4 days back home, and I feel like I'm finally past the brain fog of being hungover. But I mean emotionally, stepping off the plane in Aruba without children, only having to account for my own self, into warm weather. I left and it was 5 degrees in New York. It was disgusting. Stepping off that plane, it was like I had shed 100 pounds from my body. And then all weekend, it was so nice. I really just, I can't remember a time when I felt like this. We haven't been on vacation without our kids in a really long time. And if you listened to the last solo episode when you heard about our vacation to Hawaii, that like it was a vacation, but it was a lot of work and it was a lot of parenting. There was a lot of things going wrong. So this few days away just felt so rejuvenating and calm and stress free. And I just feel like not having the responsibility of other people, like you don't realize how heavy that weight is until you drop it. And like, even though we've had breaks from our kids during summers and they'll spend time with my parents or my in-laws, and a couple nights here and there, we're still at home and we still have to manage a household and work. And I cannot endorse a girls' trip or a solo trip enough. Like, I just forgot what it does. And most of my girlfriends don't actually live in New York anymore. Like all of my close girlfriends have left or either never moved here. So a lot of my sort of girl time comes from either people's weddings or going home for holidays and seeing them for a night and having a girls' dinner, or people come in town and we do dinner, whatever. It's like event based or periodic. And you just kind of forget, I did, what a gift like girlhood and friendship is. And it kind of like brings me back to the purpose of starting this podcast, is really wanting to connect with other women about the experience of womanhood, because I feel like it is such multitudes. And this trip really brought that together in like a full circle way for me. So we are between like 29 and 33 on this trip. There were 5 of us. I was the only married person, only one with kids. And I feel like the ways that we like, so if you follow me on Instagram, you followed my whole like trajectory of like, oh my God, what do I talk about without my kids? Like, how do I be a girl again? And I feel like it was so nice to like shed that version of me for a little bit and be able to step into like, I'm not Claire the mom. I'm not Claire the employee. I'm not Claire the wife or homemaker or whatever. I can just be me, and we can like, it was really nice to be able to relate to other women about just being like silly and just having fun. Um and then some of the things like on the trip. So the first day we went on this snorkeling tour, which was like basically a booze cruise that had opportunities for snorkeling. And there was this other group of women who were probably in their mid 50s that we totally befriended. And by the end of the boat trip, we were like doing little dances on the deck and playing drinking games together. And it was just so fun. Like some of them had their husbands or partners or whatever, their significant others with them. And the guys were just all off, and like all the girls were like on the deck doing their thing. There was this other girl that we met who we ended up seeing at a bar later. I'm trying to track her down because like I feel like one definition of a girl's girl is when you see a group of girls like taking a selfie and trying to like get a shot, being like, oh, let me snap that for you. And this girl was that. She took my phone, she saw us dancing and like trying to take a selfie and like cheers each other. And she just took my phone and she was like, I've got it. And we're like, oh, thank you. And then like, she was like, no, take more, like do more, like keep posing, like check it. Do you like it? Like, I feel like there's such an underrated, like, thank you, because you've done it. You have had someone take a picture and then they're like, check it. And you're like, oh, thanks, it looks great. Just to like be polite and like rush through the semi-awkward social interaction. And this girl wasn't having it. She was like, no, all of you put your eyeballs on this photo. Like, do you like how you look? Do you want to repose? Do you want to try it again? And it was just really nice. Like, I really appreciate that. And she didn't have to do that. But I also feel like she's been there. Like, she knows. 2 nights later, on our last night, we actually ran into her on the dance floor at the bar. And it was like, we had found our long lost best friend. Like we met this woman 2 days ago on a booze cruise, and the way when we saw her and made eye contact, all of us swarmed each other. And I actually don't know if it was like her boyfriend or fiance or whoever she was with, the guy who was like, well, I guess I should go get another round of drinks now because we're not going home anytime soon, and had so much fun. So it was just really, really nice to be able to, I think, get back in touch with sort of like girlhood that has like morphed into this is what it is in womanhood now, but it's always kind of within us. And I feel like these sort of like points of connection are what fuel me so deeply, and I'm trying to create more of. I've been saying for a while now, and like this is like kind of pathetic, but also just kind of true. I cannot wait for my 40th birthday, which is 7 years away. And like, I can wait. I am not trying to wish away 7 years. But the reason that like I have my eyes on 40 is just now all of my girlfriends are starting to have their first babies and getting pregnant for the first time and going through their first postpartums. I am done having kids. And so now, and so like I couldn't go on the girls' trips. I couldn't go on the birthday parties. I couldn't do the fun things because I was pregnant, postpartum, breastfeeding, getting pregnant again. It just wasn't the phase of life I'm in. But like I'm entering that phase now where I am more available. I have the flexibility. I'm not thinking about what the next pregnancy is. And so for my girlfriends who are going through it for the first time now, I'm gonna leave them alone. Like they're gonna be in their little moment where they're gonna take a step back from the girl trips and the pumping and going through that phase. I've been there, so I know what it's like. But they're not gonna be going through it in 7 years. Like in 7 years, everyone's kids that they're having over the next 3 to 4 years are gonna be old enough to be left behind. Like not alone, obviously, but you know what I mean. And so in 7 years, no one is going to have an excuse of like, I'm pregnant or I'm what, like, whatever, girl, have your baby now. But for my 40th birthday, clear your calendar. We're going somewhere. I don't know where, but we're going to go somewhere, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a good time. And I do need to microdose girls' trips and girl things before that because I can't go another 7 years. It was a lot of fun. And let this be your encouragement to book the trip. Get your girls, get 1, get 2, get 3, get 5, get 10, get however many you can, and go somewhere. Also, a very big also, leaving New York in January. Could not endorse that anymore. People, again, the single people that I know, they've always been onto this. They've been doing this for years. People are like, I'm going to the Caribbean, I'm going to Hawaii, I'm going here. Like, good for you. I have 3 children and a husband. I can't just hop on a plane and go somewhere. It's stupid expensive. But let me tell you, money well spent. I will never not be a believer in this again. My husband has actually for the past 2 years been trying to say like, hey, let's do a long weekend, like let's hop down to Jamaica or something. It's direct flights from New York. It's easy. We could do it. And I've always been like, no, we should bring the kids if we're going somewhere. Or last year was like I was pregnant. I didn't want to be in a bathing suit while I was pregnant. Nothing against it, just not for me. Now that I have left New York in the month of January, I don't think I'll ever be able to stay in New York for the entire month of January. Like that was healing. I didn't know how bad it felt and how cold I was and how much of like a mood depressor it is. Like it's just gray. This year there's so much snow and it's not white snow anymore. It's gray and brown and yellow snow and you just stare at it because there's nowhere to put it. Anyway, stepping off the plane to the sun beating down, I was sweating because I wore jeans on the plane and a black jacket. And man, did that little sweat bead trickling down feel so good. I was like, yes, I've made it. I have made it. So 2 things that I am highly endorsing for everyone, especially if you're in New York, book the girls trip, get the girls together and go someplace warm. Don't talk to me about skiing. Don't talk to me about snowboarding. I am not going someplace to be cold. That's not happening for me. If that's how you have fun, you go live your life that way. If it's with your girls, but for me, it has to be swimsuit weather. So it was a good time. I One very humbling thing about being 33 with three children is I forgot how terrible it feels to be hungover. Like I cannot hang. Like I actually thought there was something wrong that yesterday on Wednesday I was still like, is my brain turning on yet? Are we here? What's going, like I wasn't like, it wasn't like an acute hangover where like you wake up, you're like, I can't open my eyes, my mouth is parched, I need Tylenol every 10 minutes. But it was like I'm drained. Like my body put forth such effort to drink that much, to be awake that late, to wear the 3-inch heels, wedges, but they still count, to dance for that long on such raised surfaces. I will give myself credit for that. College prepared me well for dancing on raised surfaces and not falling off. And I'm gonna pat myself on the back and give myself credit where I deserve because I know how to not fall off a bar when I'm dancing on it. Just saying. Thank you, F&M's pool table. If you know, you know. Okay. We beat that dead horse. You get it. I had a good time, and I think you should go have a good time too. We have a Super Bowl coming up this Sunday, and let me tell you how little I could care about either of the teams playing. I really want to say it's the Seahawks, but I don't want to be wrong. But I know it is a team in Seattle. Yeah, Seattle Seahawks. It's the Seahawks and the Patriots. But it's also Bad Bunny. And yeah, I'm a basic little white girl who just is getting excited about Bad Bunny. But I'm excited about it. I feel like we kind of need a positive pop culture moment right now. I feel like the past couple of weeks have been heavy in the socio-political environment. And I feel like we are wanting something. I feel like people are wanting to cheer for something, and this could be it. I'm hoping this is it. I'm hoping that the commercials are good. We used to always have a Super Bowl party, like before we had kids. We'd always have all of our friends over to our apartment. I think I always grew up going to Super Bowl parties and it was super fun and I always wanted to be that. Like our apartment right now is not at all conducive to hosting, but on my bucket list for sure is being the Super Bowl party hosters. So hopefully in the next couple of years that could be a dream that comes true. But I love the snacks. My mom always made this White Castle dip growing up, and I make it now once a year. It's delicious. You can judge me, but it is hamburger meat and Velveeta cheese and like the French onion soup dry mix. So like the mix you put in, and then you just mix it all together in a big pot and put it on some little crackers. And oh my God, it is crack. It's so delicious. So we do that. And my husband orders wings, and then the kids always pick a dessert. Actually, surprise, we got them a king cake this year, and they don't know yet, but they're gonna lose their minds. So excited. I'm also feel like this sort of getting ready for the Super Bowl has made me want to dive deep into the logistics of it all. Like, I want to know who is the party in control? Like, who is calling the show? And I was talking about this earlier, and my husband was like, well, it's Roger Goodell who's in charge, or the CEO or whatever of the NFL, which, like, sure, it's his show and his game, because, again, he's the CEO of the NFL, but, like, he's not on a walkie-talkie calling the shots. Like, he's sitting in a box somewhere enjoying the game. So find me the woman who is coordinating between the NFL and NBC and who is getting all of the ad sponsors and who's making sure, like, approving the commercials and the halftime show, setting that up in lickety-split timing, having the performance, and then breaking it all down and going back to play a football game. There's so much going on. And then not to mention all of, like, the brand sponsors at inside the stadium, like you always see them. I know Maybelline always does like a section and there's women and it's amazing. Um, but like who owns this? Like how does it work? And like how there has to be a team within the NFL that's just dedicated to the Super Bowl, right? I want to talk with someone about this. So stay tuned. Maybe I'll find out. Maybe that'll be next week's episode. Um, okay. I've been punting around this, but I feel like I just need to like address it head on. I'm not going to call it the elephant in the room, but there has been a lot going on in our country. And I don't want to say it's difficult to talk about because of, see, I'm already stuttering. I don't want to say, I think the mode in which to talk about it is difficult. And I think it is much more conducive to conversation than it is to what feels like, I don't know, preachy, I guess, or thought sharing. And I think the reason is that because there's so much sensitivity around what is happening. I'm talking about ICE, obviously, that I don't want, I'm worried that whatever I say is going to be misunderstood or misconstrued or, regardless of what comes out of my mouth, 50% of the people are going to dismiss it and not listen. And I think that makes me sad. And I think I have a lot of thoughts about it. I've, one, been observing sort of the discourse on social media the past, I don't know, what has it been, 2 or 3 weeks? And what people are saying, how people are saying it, how they're talking to other people. And it feels like things just continue to escalate rather than be fueled. And not that anything should be fueled because what's happening is atrocious and shouldn't be happening at all. I want to be very clear about that. I think what I have hesitation around is how we talk to one another. And I recognize that I have so much privilege in being able to sit back and have this conversation or share my thoughts in this way, and that, you know, I am not someone who is under attack or being targeted. And this isn't a personal situation for me, other than, I mean, obviously I care about people and what they're going through, but I am not personally impacted. I think, especially on social media, you get someone's attention for like 60 to 90 seconds at most. And as you can tell, I'm not short-winded, and 60 to 90 seconds isn't really a lot of time to be able to have conversation, to provide for context or nuance. And I think a lot of people on social media have, I can understand, I guess, wanting to feel comfort maybe in the people that they're following, or, you know, I think a lot of things, we want social media, at least in some instances, to feel relatable or like you feel seen. I know that's why I post, is because like my life, I like, I'm a working mom of three in New York City, and I know I'm not the only working mom of three or two or one or four or whatever. But I think that you want to know sort of, who are you, if you see yourself as a working mom of whatever, or a woman, a working woman, a mom, how else are we alike or different? And I can understand like wanting to understand the values of the people that you're following. What I think social media is difficult for is being able to have those longer form conversations. So I think I've always in my life been a political person. Um, I can remember back to high school. I worked, I volunteered on Barack Obama's campaign when I was 16. I went door to door canvassing, knocking on doors, asking for votes and helping people register to vote. The week of the election, I volunteered in the basement of a Barnes and Noble to call people and remind them to get out to vote and ask them if they had voted yet. Um, I had my Jeep Grand Cherokee and I got car paint and wrote Obama on the back of it with like a giant peace sign as the O because I thought that was so freaking cool of me. um, which might seem like, yeah, cool, whatever, but like I come from a very Republican background family. So that was sort of like my first foray into, I don't know, it feels weird to say like be political, but being pulled to like act out and live what felt important to me. I was 16, I couldn't even vote, but it was like everyone at the time was excited. And I wanted to just be part of it. And then throughout my life, I have gone down to Washington and I've talked with my congressional representatives and I've worked with local New York State senators to have different things passed in New York that are important to me around motherhood and the mothering agenda. And so I've always been politically active, and that's always just sort of been a part of who I am. But I've never really talked about it in a public way in social media, at least through my public account, NYC Fan5. And I think I always had this expectation of me that it would be an easy thing to do if I ever had a platform to talk about. And I felt really kind of frozen that I didn't know how to navigate this first time experience for me because living my values and standing up for things that I always felt important and always being very involved in my communities and things that I cared about because that is something that I had always lived. It was hard for me to navigate questioning that. And it wasn't so much questioning, saying, or condemning what ICE is doing, because again, it's wrong. I'm not, I have zero qualms about saying that. It's this sort of bigger picture that I'm trying to dissect myself, I guess, of how do we back it out from here? Like, I have this vision in my head of like, okay, while I was on maternity leave, I binged Yellowstone. And like, I have this like vision of like a Yellowstone ranch, the not from stolen land part of it though, but like, just stick with me. This beautiful cabin in this beautiful, picturesque Montana, Wyoming, out west, just like beautiful setting in a cabin in this like wood kitchen table and just like women sitting around laughing, crying, trauma dumping, hugging, cackling, like bent over laughing, talking about nothing and talking about everything. Like this sort of connection that you feel with someone when you meet them for the first time and you go all the way deep in 5 minutes, but like you still don't know their first name, but you just connect. I crave that type of connection. And I crave that other connection with women, which is also probably like why this bachelorette party and this weekend felt so good for me, because I don't get that on a daily basis. And I think there's something rare and unique about it, but I also don't think it's like this diamond that's so hard to find. Like, I feel like this connection that I'm trying to create, I guess. Anyway, so I have this just sort of vision of like bringing all of these women together and everybody just connecting. And I see that that feels so far away because right now, and not just in this moment, but like kind of where we are as a country, it feels like the house, that table inside that house is on fire. And instead of everybody getting fire extinguishers and bringing their hose, it feels like people are more invested in dumping gasoline on the fire than picking up a hose to try and put it out. And I'm kind of someone who I don't, that's not how I want to participate. I always want to be a person with a hose and I always want to put out the fire and I want to find a way to rebuild. Um, and this feels like kind of a journey that we collectively as society have to go on. And I don't really know that we're capable of doing that right now. I don't really know that we're at a place yet of being ready to do that, to stop dumping fire or gasoline onto the fire. And I say that partially because of what I was observing during the last couple of weeks and sort of the social media discourse. And, people talk about how social media is the public square now where things get decided. And there are these very overt and blatant influences. And then there's also these very subtle influences that maybe we aren't aware that we're picking up on. But the way that I saw so many people calling people out for either not saying anything or saying something but not saying enough, for not saying anything at all, for saying something and then saying it incorrectly. There was just, other than maybe a personal clear conscience, it felt like there wasn't really a lot of upside. And it didn't feel maybe like we were trying to connect. And again, I there's so much to unpack to it. And I still feel hesitant about a lot of it because I feel like a lot of it is better meant for conversation than it is for me rambling on with my thoughts here. But I want to be very conscious of participating in dialogue that is productive and that brings people along rather than continues to divide. And like I hear in my head sort of like both sides of people saying, but it's a privilege to be able to say that. Like, yes, I recognize that. And also, like, we have to start somewhere, and maybe in the middle of a crisis isn't the place to start. But I think I just always had this assumption that it would be a very easy thing to say and navigate, but it felt more complex actually experiencing it. So I don't know. I'd be open and interested and eager to have dialogue with other people who maybe have been experiencing this, if anyone wants to sort of talk about it. People who maybe have a platform and have navigated saying things, not saying things. I think bringing me back to like the reason I thought it was important to bring up sort of like I've always been a political person is that although in my life I've always been a political person, I hadn't always expressed that or talked about it through my social media. And so in the moment, it did feel performative. And like it felt like I had already called my reps. I had already emailed my reps. I have already talked to my local representative about how New York City is preparing for things that could happen here. And so, because that's just, again, like what I would do normally. So by then posting about it, it felt like, well, I'm posting about it to signal how I feel about this and be explicit about it. Which I also recognize there's value in. Like, again, people want to know what your values are and what they're supporting and who they're following. So I understand that. I think it felt, I don't know, it didn't feel how I thought it would feel, I guess, in a really unsophisticated way of saying that. Um, anyway, I also think there's a a couple of other thoughts that are trickling in right now of I don't always I don't always I never really feel educated enough about geopolitical or even socio-political happenings to have a super informed opinion. And I'm not saying that it takes an informed opinion to say that what Iceland is doing in Minnesota is wrong, because I think it's wrong. I condemn it. Um, but I'm not trying to set a precedent for myself of everything that happens I have to have an opinion or comment about. Um, I I think I struggle a little bit with how I feel about that. Um, and I don't know what that is, so maybe I'll keep unpacking that. Um, I'm sure I have more thoughts, but they're a little hard to gather in the moment. Maybe we should move on to the question box. Okay, there were some good questions. Let me see. Oh, first question. Pumping. So it's talk about pumping next to the random bro. Okay, so on my way to Aruba, I was woo woo tooting my own horn because I got a complimentary upgrade to Delta Comfort, which like is not first class, but I will take it. Any extra space for my pump and me, and I like who am I to say no? Um, so I was all excited, and I was also nervous about this flight because I've never had to pump on an airplane before. I've breastfed all three of my children many times, and I'm very comfortable with that. But something about breaking a pump out, like it just doesn't feel natural, and it doesn't like I'm not gonna say I was like walking in there super confident, just more of a like gotta get her done. Um, and so go to my Delta Comfort seat, and up next to me walks this just like bro. Like, think about the like high school lax bro, except he wasn't in high school. He was like upper 20s, lower 30s, like parallel age, didn't have a ring on. And then his buddies kept walking back and being like, oh yeah. And then one of his buddies walked back and said to him, he's like, oh man, I wish you had gotten seed by the baby. As if like being seeded by a baby is a curse of death. And I was like, really? Can we do better, please? Please? Anyway, he did pass out. I did have to pump. I brought a big giant shawl to cover myself. And basically just hid in there like a little tent. So it wasn't as bad as I thought, but I don't know, it was fine. We got it done. Um, mm, okay. How are we talking to kids about ice? I'm gonna be honest, I'm not. My kids are not of the age where I feel they need I have a 9-month, 4-year old, and 7-year old, and this isn't on their radar, and I don't think it needs to be on their radar right now. Um, Again, I recognize that there are 4-year olds and 7-year-olds and 9 months olds in Minnesota, and there were in Chicago, and there's going to be in other cities that are absolutely going to have to have these conversations. If that comes here, then I can update you on what our conversation looks like. I always try to keep it age appropriate and context appropriate. Um, I, yeah, so my answer is I'm not yet. Um, we'll have to see. Life in New York City with kids. Um, Not a question. There's a lot of things I could say about this. So, first of all, We love life in New York City with kids. I also, people always ask me, like, what's it like? And the honest answer is, I don't know what it's like anywhere else. I've only raised kids in New York. We've had all three of our kids here. Um, and we love it. I mean, the access that we have to the museums, to the parks, I mean, do I love it in the cold weather? No, but 90% of the time, the good outweighs the bad. Um, I am not cut out for fighting car seats. So, like, we walk everywhere, we don't own a car. When I travel back to see my parents, having to wrestle them into car seats and take the stroller in and out, like that feels like a lot to me. Like we walk to the grocery store and just carry our groceries home in the bottom of the stroller. Having to load kids in and out of a car for the groceries feels like a lot of work. Um, I do feel like my kids don't fully appreciate that they live in New York City because they've always lived in New York City. But for example, um, the DOE, all first graders go to they have like a ballet program, and then they get to go see a show at Lincoln Center. So in first grade last year, he went to see a ballet at Lincoln Center. Like, what? I didn't do that until I was 25. Um, they last year they took a field trip to the American Museum of Natural History. Like, I read about that museum in textbooks, and that's where your field trip is to. Um, they go to the Met every Monday after school and play at the indoor playground. We're in Central Park all the time. So I think there's so many things that they get to experience that they wouldn't living in other areas of the country. Are there drawbacks? Sure. But honestly, I mean, like, I feel like they kind of get the best of both worlds. My in-laws live in Long Island, so it's like 2 hours from us. Um, my parents have a backyard in St. Louis when we go visit them and a pool. So I feel like when they're visiting family in other places, they get kind of suburban life spoils, like backyards and bigger space and all of that. Um, but we love living in New York City with kids. There's so much to do. We have three playgrounds within a 10-minute walking distance. One is 2 blocks from us. So we love New York City with kids. Let's see. I think that was it. If you're still listening, thank you for being here. I really want to end on a note of I'm doing my best to try and navigate this conversation around what's going on in the country. I'm trying to come at it from a very balanced, open-minded perspective while also being very clear in what I believe is right and wrong. And then I'm not shut off to any conversation that is in good spirit. I truly invite the conversation that is meant and intended to be that, to have a conversation with understanding. I probably said things incorrectly. I probably misspoke a little bit. I might not have been super clear in exactly communicating what I was trying to, but that's because I'm freeform telling you my thoughts and what I've been thinking about, and this isn't scripted, and I don't have bullet points or notes or anything in front of me. I'm just trying to communicate how I've been thinking about this for a couple weeks now. So with that, I hope you give me a little bit of grace and try and take the spirit of what I'm trying to communicate around all of this. With that, I hope you enjoy the Super Bowl, and I hope it gets warmer in New York City because it's in single digits right now. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Be kind, be brave, be safe.